Okay, so here's the question. The big question is, what made Abraham so acutely aware of God that he was willing to be thrown into a burning furnace for it? I hope you know the story. The story goes like this. It's one of my favorite stories, and this is a story that my dad told regularly. So basically, this woman comes in. Okay, so basically, oh, no, let's go back for a second. Abraham's father is an idol dealer. He's like the equivalent of like the West Colfax used car dealers, but he's doing idols. That's Abraham's father. So Abraham's father is an idol dealer, and he says one day to Abraham, he says, "Abraham, I'm going on vacation. Please mind the shop." Abraham says, "Okay, no problem." So this woman comes in with some food that she asks Abraham to give this food to the idols. And Abraham says, "Great, no problem, I got you." And then he takes a stick and he destroys all the idols. And his father comes home after his vacation, and he goes to the shop and he sees the carnage. It's a like epic destruction. And he says, "Abraham, what the fuck did you do? What happened? You had one job. Take care of the idols." Abraham says, "Ab, I'm so sorry. I screwed up and I apologize." Um, uh, Here's what happened. This woman came and she gave food, and I was giving the food to the idols, but then there was a big fight because one idol got more food, or maybe whatever. They got jealous. They got a big fight. In the end, the biggest idol went and just destroyed all the rest of them, and there that one big idol was left standing. And Abraham's father says, "What kind of idiot are you? You know these idols don't speak, they don't get jealous, they don't fight. What are you talking about?" And Abraham says, "See, Dad, that's exactly like hello, right? They're nothing. They're not any. They have no powers. So what's the big deal here?" Abraham's father gets a little uncomfortable with this and brings Abraham to the famous King Nimrod. Nimrod is just not a very nice guy. And Nimrod and Abraham go through this whole fascinating, back and forth. Well, why don't you, fine, you're not going to bow to this. I don't want you to bow. Why don't you bow to this? Why don't you bow to the wind? Why don't you bow to the sun? How about the moon? How about the rain? How about the clouds? How about the whatever? And finally, Nimrod realizes that Abraham is just messing with him, and so Nimrod says, "Okay, you know what? I'm done with you. I'm not interested in playing your stupid games anymore. You're out." And Nimrod throws Abraham into a fiery furnace, and Abraham comes out alive. So this is the story. Incidentally, I think it's only right and important and fair to say the line that my father used to say when he would tell the story, which is really a beautiful line. My father would say, "Every son has to destroy his father's idols." I just want you to sit with that for a minute. Every son has to destroy his father's idols. Okay, just leave that. Whatever comes up, came up, and it's good. Let's go back to Abraham here for a minute. Okay, so Abraham has this conviction, it's seeming conviction, and I'm curious what happened. So we have Moses, right? Moses has the burning bush. He sees the burning bush. Moses diverts off the path to go to the burning bush and speaks to God in the burning bush. And we have Noah, right? So Moses after Abraham and Noah before Abraham. We have Noah, who is maybe not, no offense to Noah, but maybe not the sharpest tool in the shed. But God says, this is the best hope for humanity, so we're just going to go with it. And God comes to Noah directly and speaks to Noah. And so there's not very, very much ambiguity. But Abraham, in the Torah, doesn't make any explicit mention of what it was that inspired Abraham to depart from this polytheistic idol worshiping situation, and consider the possibility of one God. So I'm going to offer a couple thoughts and ideas, and I'll just leave it with you. I'm not going to give you any major solution here, but here's a couple thoughts. First of all, I spoke to my brother about this. My brother does not know that I swear on my YouTube videos, so don't hold him responsible for my sins. My brother Yoshua Hoffman, Rabbi Dr. Yoshua Hoffman, said interesting thing. He said, Avram has no patience for bullshit. No, my brother did not use those words. Those are my words. Avram had no patience for bullshit. At some point, Abraham realized that there's a problem with the whole thing, as we pointed out just in this discussion with his father. He realized there's a problem with the whole thing, and all of these platitudes that are offered to him, it's like this, it's like that, it's like that. Abraham's like, then it doesn't work out. It doesn't work out, and I'm not going to settle for your bullshit. I'm not going to just accept it and take it and just like go with it. I'm not going to do that. I see how it is, and I'm gonna and I want to be honest, have integrity, be authentic, and I'm not going to tolerate your stories. So that's one thing that my brother said. But then I came back and I said, okay, but like, how did he get there? So I'm going to tell you this. There's something here, if we just look at the Torah and just look at the things that happened before Abraham, in the Parsha of Noach, so at the end of the Parsha of Noach, that talks about Abraham, because we're introduced to Noah before the Parsha of Noach, and we're introduced to Abraham before the Parsha of Lech Lecha, where we get our main introduction to Abraham, or where God first speaks to Abraham. In that parsha, we also have the story of Migdal Bavel, of the Tower of Babel. And there's something interesting, I think, right? If we were to imagine that the Torah is giving us the answer to what happened with Abraham, even if it's not explicit, maybe the Tower of Babel is the story of Abraham. Something happened in the diversification of humanity, in all the languages. Something happened. Now, I heard once, I don't even remember where I heard it from, but I heard once this idea that maybe when everybody started speaking different languages, that it actually kind of expanded people's perception of the world and the universe. And that through that expansion of perception, Abraham might have just kind of had this moment where he took a step back and was like, wait a minute. All this stuff all the stuff that made sense 10 minutes ago doesn't make sense anymore. And we need to renegotiate to, re-clarify the whole thing. So it could be it was the Tower of Babel. I'm going to say one other thing. I have no idea if or how this is related, but it's interesting to me nonetheless. After the Tower of Babel, if you just read through the verses in the Torah in the Old Testament, after Migdal Bavel, the Tower of Babel, you get into, there's this whole lineage thing where we end up meeting Abraham, who's, by the way, his name then is Abram, not Abraham. He doesn't get the hey, the H sound until later. But we meet Abraham in that lineage where we learn about when he was born. But there's something very fascinating that happens. Throughout the Torah until now, when we go through the whole lineage thing, this person was this many years old when he had a child, and then he was this many years old, and then he lived for the rest of those years and had more children, etc. We see that that everybody's having kids around 100 years old. There's some fascinating thing which seems to imply, if we go based on these, animals like the Icelandic shark, that seems to imply that that sexual maturity is not occurring until about 100-something years old, because that's when people seem to first be having kids. But then suddenly there's a shift, a drastic shift. As we get to closer to Abraham, suddenly it shifts, and I believe Abraham's grandfather, I think it is Lamech, is 30 or 35 years old when he has his first kid. What happens? Suddenly there's a shift. Now, I don't know what that means, but I do wonder if there's something there that implies or gives a hint toward what happened for Abraham that he developed this clarity that he wanted to worship one God, and that one God was omnipotent and the source of all things. Thanks for listening.